Okay, Don, love y'all, bro. Y'all don't know how much I grew up on y'all 1050. Pops was coming in. Shout out to my boy Dom, you couldn't make it. Love y'all. Peace.
All right, should I introduce? You want me to introduce this next gentleman? Do you mind? I'm going to bring this guy out if you don't mind. He's one of the greatest to ever do it. He's going to join us on the stage right now. Do it. I mean, this is just so cool for me as someone who's a radio nerd who loves this business so much. To get to bring this guy on stage is so special. And for a legend in our field to celebrate with us today means so much. He is a Radio Hall of Famer. He's quite simply one of the best to ever do it. Make some noise for Christopher Mad Dog Russo! Someone give Chris a mic. Get him a mic. Mike!
He had a mic.
Yeah, here it comes, here it comes.
He had a mic for 18 years.
Wow.
Congratulations.
Thank you, buddy.
Peter, everybody.
Thank you.
Hall of Famer, Chris.
Yeah,
how
feels
about
good,
that?
right?
Yeah. Well, I don't know.
God almighty.
Now, did you cry when you
No, but I did have a couple of emotional moments. First off, the night is tedious. 10 speeches, started at 7:30. I was speech 6. I got on at 10:15.
Oh, boy. How long was your speech?
Mine was 17 minutes.
17 minutes.
Most people went 35 to 40. I was only going to go 5 because I had written it. But since everybody went so long, I said, I got 3 tables here. I got to go a little longer. So I went 17 minutes.
How long did Mike go?
That's a good question. I don't even know. My old partner, Mike, how long did Mr. Francesa go?
I wasn't monitoring that one.
I don't know that one. That's a good question, Pete.
How long did Susan Walker go?
Well, she was last.
Oh.
So, and not only that, think about this for a second. The second person who got inducted in 2020 but did not have a ceremony because of the pandemic. They gave him a ceremony here, and he went second. He went 35 minutes.
Wow.
And his table left as soon as he was done.
Oh, the disrespect.
That really
Wow.
bothered me. So by the time that Smullian went and Susan went, I mean, it was, a lot of people left. And that made me, Susan went on probably about 11:15. So it's just too tedious. But the event is great. Listen, it's the Hall of Fame. They do a nice job with the cocktail party, but the event salutes me. How are you? Forget me. This is about you guys. I know you guys are all day. First off, who wants to answer it first? Don, how about you? Before I get to the big guy.
All right.
20 years. Think about that. 20 years on the radio in New York City.
Yeah, I can't believe it.
That's more than Mike and me.
I
Go
can't
ahead.
believe it.
Let me hear.
Because, I grew up listening to you. I grew up wanting to be in sports radio. I grew up listening to Steve Summers after the Met games.
Yeah.
Calling the show to talk about my teams, dreaming that one day I'd get a chance to do this. And then I did updates on Sports Phone forever, and then 10-10 wins, and then Chernoff called, and I got a chance to work at the Fan. Woo! First day I saw Chris Russo. First time I ever met Chris Russo. You came in, I don't even know if you remember, it was during Wimbledon. You came in like a house on fire. It's like, I'm just gonna watch the tennis, leave me alone, but I'm gonna buy everybody lunch.
Did I say that?
You did say that. And then Eric Spitz is like, so I gotta buy Don LaGreca lunch? And I was like, oh no, oh my God. I just, all I wanted to be was on the radio. All I wanted to do was to do a talk show. That's all I ever dreamed about doing was being
Even more
on
than a
the radio.
play-by-play with the Hockeys.
I loved Bob Murphy, but I never thought it would happen. I never thought I'd have a chance to do hockey play-by-play. But I thought maybe, just maybe, I might be able to do a talk show. Because I was able to do it in college. And I thought maybe I'd have a chance to do it. But it was updates. And then finally, Richard Neer showed up late for a shift.
Really?
And I got thrown on the air.
Wow. I didn't know this.
Right after the WNBA All-Star Game on the Fan.
That's a rough time.
There's two things going on. The WNBA All-Star Game and the umpires were threatening a strike.
Oh my gosh.
What a day. So I'm thinking, guys,
You
I'm
took
going to
calls
kiss
on
up
that?
the management.
You took calls on that?
Well, it was like 20 minutes I was on the air, so I started to talk about the WNBA. So Mark Chernoff takes me aside and says, listen, I don't think that was the greatest idea. I said, well, listen, I didn't know I was going to be on the air, but Richard Neer showed up late. He said, and I'll never forget this. Whatever you think of Mark Chernoff, he said to me, listen, you always, always have to be ready to be on the air. And I took that to heart, and I said, so basically I'm doing a talk show 24/7. Like when I'm watching a game.
Yes, you are.
I'm talking to my wife. It's the Don Show. We have meetings. They call it the Don Show. Because at any moment, a microphone may be put in my face and say, Don, you got to do 5 hours. And I'm ready to do it.
Because you practiced in your head.
And, you know, working at the Fan, I took a chance on ESPN Radio. And this guy gave me the opportunity. And if you told me that I'd be doing it for 20 years and it would be all these hundreds of people paying money to see me talk about it, I would told you you're absolutely out of your effing mind. So to be sitting here being interviewed by you.
But I want to have fun with you. You've been on for 5 hours, so
I appreciate it. I'm just saying, it just, you know, I worshipped you, I worshipped the station, I worshipped sports, and to be able to do this is just amazing.
Well, and Chris, I just want to add before you get to Michael, because I don't talk about this very much. You know, my role on the show, I love it, but I'm aware of what it is. You know, I'm aware of the comedic part that I bring and the fun and whatever. But the truth is, I wanted to do sports before I ever wanted to do music. Like, sports was my #1 thing. I was obsessed. The first videos that exist of me are me rapping the Super Bowl Shuffle at 5 years old. I remember the 86 World Series like it happened yesterday. I was obsessed. And when I got to the University of Maryland, I met the other kids who were doing sports. And it was so intense that I just started immediately thinking about my path to getting on the radio. Because as much as I love sports, my passion was always radio, whether it was hip-hop radio or sports radio. I mean, I simultaneously idolized Funkmaster Flex and Bob Costas. I don't know how much you guys remember Costas Coast to Coast.
Oh, I sure do.
Yeah, but he did that Sunday night vehicle that I adored. And I just wanted to do radio the most. So when I got to Maryland and I saw how serious these people were about sports, wanted to travel with the field hockey team and do all that, I said, you know what? I think the better path for me might be...
Talk radio.
No, music first.
Oh, really?
Because I knew the music and sports. I knew it both. And so I decided to lean into the music, and it worked out well. And the fact that I ended up here is just such an amazing dream come true, because it really was what I always wanted, but I sort of gave up on it when I got to college.
What year? You didn't start 20 years ago, right?
I started 7 years ago.
7. I thought 7. I thought it was a little longer than 7.
When does the comedy stuff kick in? That bring us
Well done. But no, I'll forever be grateful. I was brought in by a guy who's no longer with us, Rob Savinelli at ESPN. He's with us. He's alive. He's no longer at ESPN. He's not in Bristol, but he's okay. And I was brought in, and Tim McCarthy saw the vision. And, you know, when everyone makes the joke about how these guys didn't want me to be there, I'm not remotely offended, because when I think about the idea of someone else coming along, I know how they would react. They would never want to change the show that much. So the fact that I was able to actually, you know, win you guys over on some level at some point and do this, it's truly changed my life, guys. So I thank you guys completely. Grateful to be here.
You know, I feel so weird that, you know, at least my part in it, being honored for 20 years on the air, because, you know, working with Don, I've really done 6 years on the radio.
You mean actual words used?
Actual words,
Right.
because Don does most of the talking, and I thank him for that because I joke about it a lot, but Don is the heart and soul of the show. You know, he kind of makes everything go, and he's the voice of you. He's the voice of fans. He's just like everybody that's out in those seats. And I just try to keep it rolling with Peter and Don, but you know, Tim McCarthy had this vision about the two of us 20 years ago, and I spoke about this at the beginning of the show today, and I never met them. Didn't know them. All right, you guys are doing a show today.
Wow.
And for the first 3 days, I didn't talk to him, Chris.
Oh, really?
On the air.
Not a word.
Yeah, not a word.
You did the show around him instead of
Well,
with
they
him.
said that he was there in case the line dropped.
They
because
told me I was co-hosting. They told him Don's there in case the line drops.
So I didn't feel like I needed to talk to him. And then I got a phone call, you can incorporate the guy a little. I said, for what? They said, well, kind of a guy that could be on the show too. I said, okay. And then...
So he evolved, and he turns out to be a very important component.
the most important component.
I do not know that.
See, there's an important dynamic that exists between us, Chris, of like, Michael and I relate on some level. We love entertainment, we love broadcasting, we both are super into it. We also have a little bit, even though Michael's from humble beginnings, more humble than me, as he'll be quick to remind you. We both have a little bougie shot side to us. We both, I think, enjoy some of the finer things at times. Don is truly exactly who he is on the radio. Budweiser, Nips, Gypsy Pond, behind Clixies. That is who Don is, and there are days when we show up to our meeting, and when Michael and I are both just sort of completely checked out, and Don is the one, he's doing the Don show. He's doing a full show.
He's the fiber of the show.
Yeah, and really when he's off the air, it's not even a joke, Chris. He does a show. And
He's thinking about it 24/7.
Right, sometimes we'll tape it, and then we'll play it on the show, and we'll call it the Don Show. Because he's doing a talk show every minute of his life.
I did not realize this, that you are such an important component.
He's a freak.
He's a freak.
Yeah.
And people do not realize that Michael and I go way back. My mother, by the way, said, "Do you have your wallet that you, I guess, lost at our New Year's Eve party that we had back in 1993?"
I don't remember, really.
I said, "Molly, what are you talking? Really?" It says, "Yeah, he called and said that I leave my wallet at your house because in 1993, think about that. That's a long time ago. I had a New Year's Eve party in Syosset, Long Island, and Michael Kay was there. Believe it or not. Was Mike there? Mike must have been there too. Yeah, I was there. And John Sterling was there. So you and I go back. We've been casual friends.
Right. Closer lately.
Better, much better lately.
Right.
But casual for the first 10, 12 years. But I must have known enough about you and Sterling because you were at that party back in 1993.
Now, this is a story you might not remember. So, 20 years ago, Tim McCarthy gives me a call and says, all right, I want you to do this talk show. And I had always listened to Mike and Chris on the air. And you guys were at a Knicks game, and I was doing the pre and post game for MSG for the Knicks. So I walked up to you both. I'd been a guest on your show. I said, do you guys have any, any kind of ideas or kind of advice?
Oh, really?
And Chris couldn't have been nicer, and he's giving me all this advice. And Mike goes, "Why would I give you advice? Who are you? You might be a competition one day. I'm not going to tell you anything." He just walked away.
Well, at least he was right.
He was right. He was.
I
right.
did not realize that. That was an 02.
And you couldn't have been nicer, and you're like going into the things you have to do, and Mike just said, "I'm not helping you."
That's 13 years into me and Mike's career.
Yeah.
Wow.
So you guys starting to drift apart at that point.
No, I had 6 more years left at that point.
Wait, so when you guys, a few years ago, I don't remember the first time we had Chris on the show, maybe 5, 6 years ago.
Yeah, after I left FAM.
Yeah.
Right, so were you guys very cool at that point?
Yeah,
I was always
we were
cool with
okay.
him.
All right.
Because Chris was never mean-spirited in any way. And also he's had the #1 show in the country with Mike.
And not only that, when Mike left to go to not left, but when he went to take the Yes job, I called him and said, "Mike, you're making a terrible mistake. You're great on radio."
He
He
did.
said, "Really, Chris?" And I was dead wrong. It was the best movie he ever made. And I remember I called him, so that would have been, what year was that?
That was year 2002.
So I remember, because he was great with Sterling. He knew how to work with John and everything else. He only did the 3 innings, but he was first, second, and seventh, right? No, third,
it
fourth,
changed.
and seventh.
Third, fifth, and seventh, and then it was like the 3 in the middle. It changed. So.
But he was great. I mean, he had the great call on the Jeter home run against Arizona, which people don't realize, in 2001. You know, Mr. November.
Yeah.
And so him and I were pretty close. Now listen, when you work against somebody, how close are you going to be? I mean, it's not like we talked every moment, but we have known each other a lot longer, and only recently, the last couple of years?
Mm-hmm.
You know, maybe a little longer than that, but, you know, since I've left, you know, I mean, it's not like we're best buddies, but I will call him, text you
We text
all the
each other
time.
a lot, yeah.
And so we are close.
But you were not the only person to say that about.
Yeah, I thought you made a mistake. I was dead wrong.
Because I remember I was at the baseball writers dinner and I had just gotten the Yes job, and I was at a urinal next to my former sports editor at the New York Post. No, this is when I got the radio gig. So this was '92, and I'm at the urinal and he says, "You made a big mistake." He goes, "You got ink in your blood, kid. You'll never ever make it."
Dick Young?
No, this was Greg Gallup.
Oh, Greg Gallup.
Yeah. So a lot of people didn't think it would happen.
It worked out.
Yeah, it worked
You missed
out.
the boat on that. Now, how does it feel here 20 years? How's it feel? You got all these people here? How's it feel tonight?
This is amazing. I mean, really, if you think about it, we're on Broadway. Don, we're on Broadway. So
You are on Broadway.
yeah, we're on Broadway. So this is and really the way we do our show, and I hope it comes across and comes out of the speakers that way, or out of the TV if you're watching on Yes. We try to create a family with everybody out there, and I hope it feels that way. And you know, this is kind of a family reunion, so to speak. So it really means a lot to us.
That's what talk radio is all about. Talk
Yeah, it's
radio is about your connection with your fan base. And you know, this is an evidence that you have obviously succeeded.
You see a lot of familiar faces, people that have been in remotes before, and I always try to, and I'm not making it up, it's like they're family. They choose to listen to us, especially now, Chris, right? There's so many different things.
Oh my God.
They don't have to turn on the radio. They don't have to turn on Yes. They've got podcasts to listen to. They've got so many other things going on in their lives. They choose to listen to us. So we
Is there a watershed moment for the 3 of you?
Well,
Everybody's got a watershed. Mine with Mike probably was 94 in spring, when you had the Knicks and the Rangers.
well, after
So that would be us. What would
after
be
you
yours?
left Mike, right? So
When you beat them?
well, we were battling to beat him, and you know it got close. And the turning point, I think, was you know we used to go to the Super Bowl because you guys started that.
You guys invented it,
Right,
Yeah.
and then
Radio Row.
Then we just said, and I don't know if you feel like this, it's become too much.
Oh, it's nuts.
So Don and I went to management, and we said, you know what? Let's not do that. Let's just do our show, because you're talking to Tony Dorsett about Depends, you know. I mean, they're
And how many times can you talk to Tony Dorsett?
Yeah,
right,
the same guys
and
every
they're all
year.
selling everything. So it was a Friday of the Super Bowl week where we would have been on Radio Row, and Mike was on Radio Row, and the Knicks traded Kristaps Porzingis.
I remember that.
Right.
That was about 3 years ago.
No, longer. than that.
Porzingis?
Yeah,
4 years. It wasn't that long ago, Mike.
Anyway.
Atlanta. It was the one in Atlanta.
Right, and we blew out the show. All Porzingis. And Mike stayed to the Super Bowl, you know,
Theme.
Talking to Marino
where
about
he interviewed
isotoner.
Marino about isotoner gloves, and the three of us just talked about Porzingis, and the ratings shifted. Because
Wow,
people
that
wanted
moment.
to talk about Porzingis, and that day, well, Mike's not talking about him, so let's go to these guys, and I think we won the next rating vote.
Wow, how about that? You actually pinpointed to a specific day.
Yeah, that day. And
Yeah.
if we had been, you're saying it's Atlanta, we would
I
have
was
had
in
to do a
Atlanta or
Super
Miami, one or the
Yeah,
other.
we would have had to do a Super Bowl show.
Right. It's hard to break that down. I mean,
Right.
the Miami one was interesting because remember, Miami, you went to the Super Bowl and Kobe died on Sunday night.
Right.
So I think it was the year before.
Yeah, it was the year before
which
that,
made-
yes.
I think it was Atlanta.
That was like the last big event before COVID was Kobe dying.
Yeah,
That
that's
was
exactly
like-
right.
Yeah,
Tom.
it was January, I think, before the COVID happened in March. For me, you know, that was a big moment. But even before then, what it really kind of crystallized was going to Yes. Because
You guys had done that back in when Yes started.
They go 3, right?
And it was a
When
big
it started,
deal.
02?
And that was just when, you know, radio shows, significant radio shows started getting simulcast. So the fact that we were getting simulcast, and now you start getting recognized around places. Like I live down in Somerset, so at the time, like the signal was a little dicey. But now I'm going like into the diner in my neighborhood, and people are recognizing me, and it blew me away. That's when I really felt that it was like pretty significant. Now you've got 2 mediums, you got television, you got radio, and then right around that same time was when the Rangers made the Stanley Cup final run, and I got a chance to call Game 1. So there was
That was against the Kings.
That was
right?
against the Kings, and so that for me
You did
personally,
Game 1 of
in the
that
show,
series?
I did Game 1 because
Wow.
Doc, father-in-law died, so they had to use Kenny, and then I got the chance to call Game 1.
I didn't know that.
Cameras in LA, and that was a big deal for me. Like for Michael, doing games, calling World Series was like old hat for him. But for me, just being an update guy, sports anchor, doing a talk show on radio, to all of a sudden being on television and getting that kind of exposure, that to me was a really kind of came together. I gotta ask Chris a question. There's one thing that makes legend and sports savant Chris Russo and Peter Rosenberg similar as New York talk show hosts. Okay. One thing, I believe.
Well, Chris has better hair than you.
What is that,
Give me
Peter? Yeah,
Give me
thank you,
that.
Mike.
Give me that.
I'm older.
We are both absolutely known for the out-of-town team that we root for.
Giants to me.
Commanders for me.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, it is
Okay.
a thing that you hear about all the time, and I just want to ask you. They give me a hard time. Now, listen, obviously it works out for me a little bit because the Commanders are in the division with the Giants.
So you get twice, you get 2 games.
So it
that's
comes
fun.
up.
Right.
You were a Giants fan, very far removed from the Yankees, and still pretty far removed from the Mets.
Yeah, very frustrating there for a while because I want to do Giants baseball and you got to do Yankees and the Mets. And then, of course, I leave and the Giants win 3 championships.
Right. But one of the best rants I remember you having
Was
on
when they
the
lost
fan
them all. That's right.
but just before that, when you talked about it was dusty to the sea. Remember you said, I remember that. Like, and that always told me that.
Dusty
like,
to the sea,
yeah,
that was a big one.
I remember that. I was like, listen, we had a program director, Mike Thompson, back in the day. He said, it's not what you're talking about, it's how you talk about it. So yeah, you had to talk about the Mets, you had to talk about the Yankees, but your passion for the Giants, even though I wasn't interested at the time, the fact that you had so much passion for it made it so listenable.
It's funny when I'm on Sirius XM, I'm not as big a Giant fan as I used to be. They won 3 times, so I'm not as wrapped up in it. But when I do things for New York, that's what they care about. Because it seems like that New York, that San Francisco Giant connection is more significant than anything I ever did. And everybody knows in New York that I love the Giants. I remember in 08, when I left, they hadn't won yet.
Wow.
And so since I left, they won in 10, 12, and 14. A lot of New Yorkers didn't even hear me get a chance to celebrate it. Because, it's Sirius XM in New York, who knows? And so as a result, they won that 3rd time. I got a little bored with it. So I'm not as big a Giant fan as I used to be. Plus, I used to play that anti-Yankee theme constantly. This is Elimination Day. I went nuts on the Yankees. Well, I used to hate the Yankees. And I had Mike there, which was obviously a very good component because I can have fun with him. So my anti-Yankee basis, the crack committee, I used to do the crack committee.
Oh, yeah.
That and the Giants were the 2 things in baseball that I was, when I lost to the 2000 Mets, I dressed up as a Mr. Met outside Shea Stadium. I had 1,000 people. I mean, I can tell you lots of stories about it, but the Giants in that period there with Bonds, they lost in 97, they lost in 98 to the Cubs, 99 the Diamondbacks won, 2000 that terrible loss to the Mets, 02 that terrible loss to the Angels. So I had a 5 or 6 year period there where I had before you guys even started, where I had a lot of pain with the San Francisco Giants.
That's interesting that the winning sort of took you out of it a little bit.
It did. I was like a Red Sox fan who finally won an 04.
I'm telling you, people think that that's not the case, but when you root for a team that doesn't win for a while,
That hard.
and then they win. I mean, I suffered this as a kid because I rooted for the Yankees, and then they won in 77 and 78, and the air kind of comes out of you.
It does.
Because you're climbing up the hill, and you finally get to the hill and go, okay.
What's next?
Now what?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and when Taylor Heineke leads the Commanders to the Super Bowl, that's how I'm going to feel this year.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's not going to happen, but okay, believe it. But I mean, so 20 years feels pretty good. You feel good.
20 years feels surreal. It doesn't seem like it's 20 years. It's gone by faster. And Peter joined us 7 years ago. But I said this to somebody backstage. Don is so.
I didn't realize that Don was this significant. I mean, I knew he was
he's so easy. Like it's working with my somewhat deranged brother. You know, I don't think there's any competition between us. I truly do love him, and you know, I want him to have success. I loved when he got the Ranger gig. I think that's great. So when you're working with somebody that you like to go to work with, then that's not really hard work. And we're getting to do something, we call it the candy store or the toy store. We're not talking about the real things in life,
not important,
which are pretty awful. So if we can take people away from that for a little bit, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, you don't realize, like, you spend 4 hours together. You might,
5 hours.
5 hours.
And only two of us.
You got commercial breaks. There's times that we travel together. There's times that we, at meetings, because ESPN is Latin for meetings. I don't know if you know that. They love having meetings.
Well, you have meetings on the first day?
Two.
2 meetings?
Tuesday at 2 o'clock, Wednesday at 7:30.
Aren't they great? They're great.
So more meetings
Lot
than
of
actual
talking.
appearances. So when you talk during the break, and I love Michael too. We started together. We were 2 single guys, and we got married. We had kids, family. 20 years is a lot of time, and you're not like hanging out as much as you would like with somebody that you were like friends with, but you
live with them now.
Years.
You live with them.
You're living together.
100%.
You're in the studio together. You're living and dying over the same thing.
You guys talked on weekends? Talk at night after games?
Texting and talking.
You're communicating in some capacity.
Don's a tough talk on the phone.
Yeah, he doesn't
You like to text?
I don't like to talk on the phone. And
You're a good texter.
I love it.
Mike's Peter, do you know that? He's a very good texter.
Oh, and in fact, this leads to my hardest question of the night. Chris, who do you text with more? Mike Francesa or Michael K? No hesitation.
Mike's not a great texter, Well, he texts though. Mr. K, well, Mike's not involved, so I talk about with the Yankees. I want to find out what's going on.
I text during games.
You text during the games? Yes, you do. Because, he did the Mets, he did the Cardinals-Phillies series. So I texted him throughout that Cardinals series about the ballpark, A-Rod, and everything else. So we spent a lot of time. Plus, I texted him someone, Jeter came into the studio.
Yeah.
We texted a little bit there at the K-Rod thing. So, people don't realize that Mike and I are a little closer than people think. Now listen, I might go 3 weeks, I don't talk to him, but he knows if I need him for high heat, he needs me for the radio, he knows I'm going to be there for him.
Absolutely. Good friend.
Hard question to both of you guys. Oh, to these two. Because I've said this before, but I want to ask you guys. Michael K., if you had to choose a job for him, you're his employer, he has to pick one job. Are you giving him play-by-play or talk show host?
I say play-by-play.
Yeah, I'd say play-by-play. Wow, really? Well, not I go talk show host.
He loves the Yankees.
He loves the play-by-play.
And I tell you what Michael's very good at. I've only been on there once. I have not gotten a second invite. But he is great on center stage.
Very good.
Oh my God, he is. That was one of the best interviews I've ever done in my life. I went down. Do you know that?
Yeah.
I went down to Center Stage one day, and we did. You were great.
Thank you.
And he had his question. I was very impressed with him. So he's good on that too. He's
He's
underrated.
great in everything he does, but I get a sense that the true passion is the play-by-play.
I agree.
Yeah.
But you know what he's good at? He's curious. And curious people make good interviewers.
Yeah.
But you know what my real passion is?
What's that?
Jody.
Oh.
Are we? I think what we're gonna do. Are we taking questions now from the?
Yeah, I don't know where the mic is, but there's supposed to be an audience situation.
John, come out and let's.
John, what we got going on?
All right, we're gonna relive some moments on the show. All
Okay.
right?
How are we reliving? I'm not sure. Are we reenacting?
We're gonna reenact.
We gotta listen.
Oh, we're listening.
Yeah, they'll play it.
Really?
Well, now wait a second. Should we free Chris?
Yeah, free me. This is all about you, Peter.
Chris, thank you so much, buddy.
Give it up for Russo, Chris Mandel Russo.
right, so we're going to relive some moments, and I guess we'll hear it up here. Who's going first?
Are we listening to something?
Yeah.
What are we doing? Okay. What's Cuber? Sniff him. Sniff him dead. Would we have anything?
Is this Pete? Is this Peter?
No, this is.
Well, I want to tell you one thing. The quicker y'all get rid of that sloppy pig, the better you can do.
Wow.
Nobody likes him. Everybody hates to hear him on their TV. They try to be polite to the guy to give him some incentive, but he just continually upsets everyone.
Ray, you're
I
talking to
have
him.
never in my entire life seen anything as sloppy and as arrogant as him eating ice cream while he's on the television. It is impossible to believe y'all would keep someone that does that.
Ray, you're
When are
talking
you
to
going
him.
to
Ray.
and
You're
send the guy
Ray.
where he's supposed to be
Ray.
to the Tarpons?
Ray, you're talking to him.
If I'm talking to him, I'm fine. I want him to understand one thing. He is the worst, sloppiest announcer I have ever seen in my life, and I will never approve of him being on your program. He's eventually going to send me and us away from your program. I like Michael K. Sure, he gets upset every now and then. I understand that. But you have a person on there that has less than a professional attitude, and you need to send him up the street. Send him up there on the 4th Avenue and let him walk up and down the street and let him holler and slop his ice cream and do
4th Avenue.
whatever he wants to do.
You don't sound like a New Yorker. 4th Avenue is not really a thing.
Television.
Well, Peter, I thought that Ray made some salient points.
By the way, I'm not kidding. All these years later, I watched the video and I go, you know what? Ray was right. I looked like I was wearing, at the time, I'm wearing my podcast t-shirt, eating ice cream. Ray was 100% right. I was a sloppy pig.
And the best part about that, Don was off that day, right?
I actually took Nancy to Boston to see the Giants Red Sox, but I heard it driving home. I couldn't believe I wasn't there.
The best thing I've ever done on the air was to just let that guy talk.
Because I could have seen you. There's a world in which you could have cut him off because
Right.
you were trying to get in, he wouldn't let you in.
Right.
Sometimes, as we all know, you bang on people when that happens, but you didn't, and you let it play out, and it ends up being, my niece and nephew, who are now 14 and were little kids when that happened, they love the call from Ray. It's amazing.
All right, what's next?
By the way, I think Ray's dead, guys.
How are you?
All right, my son.
No, it's doing real well. Now tell me, how much of the Giants have you been able to watch this year?
Actually, I don't watch a whole lot. I've seen them several times.
Don, talk about Lawrence Taylor.
Oh, there's so many things wrong with what happened there. Giants going to the playoffs in 05, take on the Carolina Panthers, a game that they ended up getting shut out in. But we couldn't broadcast from the stadium because WFAN had the Giants rights. So we actually broadcasted from the transmitter off of Route 3 on the shoulder. Why was this an idea, though? Why not? Because I wanted to go to the game, and they thought that, people are going to be driving by, going into the parking lot, and they'll see it. So this was partially because you wanted to attend? Well, no. I was going to attend, but this is because they wanted, this is the closest they could have to a remote. Remember, there's a radio station that used to do Yankee Met remotes from Shea Stadium over on with the wooden...
The walkway
the
bridge
walkway.
to the tennis center.
So they put up a tent. I'm doing a show. Scott Gomez actually stopped at the shoulder to shake my hand. That was actually the highlight. But I had to tape some interviews. So John Winthrop said we get Lawrence Taylor. So I get Lawrence Taylor on, and you heard it. I'm stumbling and bumbling because it's being recorded, and you can't hear or understand what LT's saying. Then I stumble because I can't imagine
barely
any of this
understand what you're
is
saying.
But it's being taped. So the idea is that this won't air.
Never
Especially
seen
when
the
the
light of
answer
day.
to the first question, I really haven't seen the Giants at all this year. I
That's
figure it's not going to air.
That's the underrated part, Michael, of the whole clip.
Right.
Everyone gets excited about the fact that what they're saying is in actual English. But the best part is that when you finally get the question out, that he says, "Yeah, I don't really watch."
I
the
haven't
Giants."
seen a whole lot of it. Okay, thanks.
So who put it on the air?
I guess it would be Joey, and then John. It was just so.
Joey?
So they air it, and I figure they're going to edit out the beginning, and I'm like, so what? How do I lead into his first answer? And no, we're good. And they aired all the mistakes and everything, and the Giants got shut out. It was just a miserable experience, but it was worth it because it's lived on for so long.
That's
it's
right.
actually one of the
Doing
amazing
real well.
Michael K. Show moments that didn't happen on the Michael K. Show, but we played so much of that on the show that it became a drama.
Next one.
Gil and Bensonhurst. Gil.
Michael, this is Gil in Bensonhurst. Listen to me, Michael, please. Please don't hang up. Please listen. Okay. Last night, this whole thing would be different. If Joe Girardi, if Aaron Boone had the presence of mind to pinch hit for Gary Sanchez in the first inning.
All right, goodbye, Gil. You said goodbye, Gil.
God,
I lied.
Get off the phone.
Goodbye,
Get
Gil.
off
Goodbye,
the phone.
Bye-bye, Gil.
God, I
Bye-bye,
can't
Gil.
talk to people
Bye-bye,
like this
Gil.
anymore.
Bye-bye, Gil.
Oh, my
Bye-bye,
God,
Gil.
stop it,
Pitch hit
Gil.
for Gary Sanchez in the first inning. Then why was he in the lineup, Gilbert?
Yeah, stop. Just don't dial the phone, please. Or have the nurse not dial the phone, okay? I just don't understand. Michael, we gotta stop. Andrew, screen them out. We can't do it. We're on for another 3 hours. It can't be done. Screen them out. I'll take an Islander pull. I'm not gonna do this today. I'm not. I'll get ready for the Ranger game. I'll sit in the corner like Blair Witch with my notebook and I'll write all the numbers down for the Capitals. I'm not going to sit here for 3 hours and talk to moron baseball fans. You're not going to pinch hit for a catcher in the first inning and then leave yourself with just one catcher for the rest of the game. Austin Robine's going to hit a grand slam home run. Why? He's 0-2 in the history of the postseason, for God's sakes. Stop it. Screen him out.
I actually think Gil makes the 7 points.
Now, Peter, who was Gil from Bensonhurst?
Gil was an amalgamation of all the Yankee callers we've been getting. And one day, RJ and Andrew, who should be here any moment, he said 8:40. So we'll say, listen, he's got a new job. He's going to get here as soon as he can. So we all, the three of us all talked about it, and they said, let's try to record this during a commercial. So we went to a commercial. I went and pretended to be Gil. Tried to be as realistic and annoying as humanly possible. I think Andrew and RJ helped feed me, like, what are the things that would really send them over the top. And the pinch hitting for Gary in the first inning was what did it. I swear to God, I don't know if I've ever had a plan as well executed as Gil from Bensonhurst. You guys just fell right into it.
Listen to it back. I can't believe we didn't know it was you. But at the time, I had no idea. It was so believable.
What do you got next?
To the fans that have painted you as a villain or the reason the team is losing, what do you say to those people? What's the message to them? Ask Phil.
Well, that was Jim Dolan,
Damn right it was.
who came into the studio for an hour.
I think it was the second time, too. He's done it twice.
Yeah, Chris asked about turning points. That was a turning point, too, because that made a lot of news around the country. But when he said ask Phil, you knew the skids were kind of greased for Phil.
It wasn't great.
What's next?
Chris, it's Michael K. and Don LaGreca. Congratulations.
Michael and Dom, thank you very much.
Well, Chris, we know you know the game, but just coaching for the first time, what do you think some of the challenges will be for that?
Well, there'll be a lot, Dom.
And is it necessary to be that big again for this to be a success?
Well, Dom, I think it can.
Chris, was it hard to be away from New York for that long?
Initially it was, Dom. Initially.
Good luck, Chris.
Good luck, Chris.
Thanks, Dom. Thanks, Michael.
You got it. Now, as you can tell, that's Chris Mullen, and for some reason, Chris, who's a great guy, continued to call Don Dom.
It
How'd
was
that
so
feel?
nice to keep saying my name.
Yeah.
He really wanted to engage me. But it was
the
humbling.
best part about it is that he's being a good guy by saying your name and getting it wrong
Because
every time.
there are so many times, and this is obviously a byproduct, I think, of the name of the show, that it's Michael. So you remember Michael's name. I found myself sometimes when I'm being interviewed on a show, it's like you remember the name of the show, and that's the guy that's talking to you, but you hear other voices.
Right,
you
of
may
course.
not
In fact, it's
register the
affected
names.
me so much in my family. My parents actually refer to me as "and them boys" all the
Really?
time.
Boys,
That's
yeah.
right. They don't even.
So I'm always thrilled when I'm brought up. I mean, we went a whole year, a weekly with Bill Parcells, where every time I ask him a question, he says, "Well, Mike."
He did it again last week.
Did he again last week?
Which
He just
was fun.
he doesn't acknowledge my existence. So it was nice that Chris acknowledged my existence, but the wrong name. It just unfortunate.
What's next?
Let's go to Jody in Long Island. You're next on 1050.
Hey, Michael, long-time listener, first-time caller.
Thank you, Jody.
Hey, I was wondering what you think is more important in the emotional history of the new Yankee Stadium, the exhibition games against the Cubs coming up on Friday and Saturday, or the home opener on the 16th?
Wait a second. Is this Jody Applegate?
Maybe.
Oh, wow. I don't even know what to say.
That's a first.
Which is normal for him.
No,
Jody.
I mean, really, Jody, when I saw you the other night, I was so flabbergasted I couldn't speak.
Why didn't you say hello?
Because I just couldn't, because the pink dress overwhelmed me.
So you talk for a living and then you get shy and tongue-tied when you meet a girl? Or you don't even meet the girl?
I talk for money, Jody. That's the issue. Usually, if it's not for money, I don't have much to say.
You gotta pay him.
Yeah, but I mean, you know what? I got to be honest, and everybody here can speak up and admit that I don't know how to make that first move toward a woman, especially one that was so breathtakingly gorgeous as you were.
Oh, well, you sound pretty slick right now. You sound like you got your words together.
I mean, I feel listening back. It's almost uncomfortable, Don. It's almost like I feel like we're listening to the making of Callie and Charlie in that moment.
I know.
Well, I mean, we got to bring out Joey because that's Joey's fault. So here's the breakdown. I went to the New York Emmys and the night before, and I saw Jody there, and she looked terrific. And I'm not good in going up and just talking, and so I was talking about her, how like if I could design the perfect woman, that it would be this woman that I saw. And then Jody is working at News 12 Long Island at that point, and they listened to the show. So they went into her office and they said, "Michael K's talking about you." And Jody goes, "Who's Michael K?" Had no idea, not a Yankee fan, still doesn't even know who I am. Anyway, so she calls in and she talks to Joey. They goaded her into calling in. And she says to Jody, "Make sure he doesn't ask me out on the air. I'm dating somebody." Joey left that out.
Good for you, Joey.
Out of way, Joey, as you should.
So I asked her out on the air, and she turned me down. And I said, "Thanks for the call." Joey, why did you do that?
I just knew it from the moment you were speaking about Jody. The first time you spoke about Jody, there was something different in your eyes and your voice, Michael. And I just had a feeling. I had that hunch.
Wow.
Well, you hear that?
Jody, you remember that?
And historically, Joey was never stopped by anybody he wanted that was in a relationship, so he figured, why not pass along?
Exactly. Why does he care?
So I ended up, I ran into her. I ran into a friend of hers a month and a half, 2 months later outside Madison Square Garden. "Are you Michael K?" And I said, "Yeah." She said, "Well, I'm a friend of Jody Applegate's." And I said, "Oh." She said, Jody was dating somebody. That's why she turned you down on the date. But she would go out with you now.
Great choice.
And I said, "Have her call."
And she called.
And now there's 2 kids later, and
There you go.
How about that?
thank you for making the call, Jody. Now we're done with the. Now we're going to go into the audience. If we can turn the audience lights up so we can see you, beautiful people.
All right.
Somebody with a microphone is going to go out there. Anybody who wants to ask a question, please feel free. Don, they want the Portland story.
Is Anthony Pusick in the building?
There's Anthony.
There he is. Hey, Anthony. Producer Anthony Pusick, ladies and gentlemen.
Who has? Do you have a question up there, Ant?
My name is Morgan from Jersey City.
Hello.
Yeah,
I don't have a question, but I have a common observation. It's about pushes. And
Push.
Don, your pushes. You say pushes the same way Greenie says good. Pushes.
Wow.
Hey, really?
Good.
I still don't know what I'm
pushes.
saying.
That is
Push
deep.
is good.
Yeah.
So I
Push.
push,
It's push.
push,
But you said
No.
push.
push,
Yeah.
push.
This guy's
I think
obviously a forensic
I
psychologist.
think it should be the way Greenie says it. Actually.
He says good.
Hi, Chuck.
Well, thank you.
Thank you very much. That was both weird and interesting. All right, down here in front, Jake has someone. Andrew Gutman, ladies and
Andrew Gutman in the
gentlemen!
house. Yeah. The prodigal son returns.
What could be more uncomfortable for Andrew Gutman?
If you really know Andrew, I don't know if he could be more uncomfortable than he is
Oh
right now.
my God, that is so good.
I'm sorry.
JJ, you got that on video? That was tremendous. All right, Anthony, who's next? Oh, there he is, Andrew.
There he is.
Yeah. All right, Anthony Pusick. Where are you, by the way? Oh, Jake is in front. Sorry. All right, Jake, what do you got?
Jake from Bayport, question from Michael K.
Uh-huh.
What is your favorite Yankee call? Because my personal favorite is, he did it in style. You know what that's from, right, Mike?
That's Jeter 3000?
That's Alex 3000, I believe.
Well, Jeter 3000 is my favorite one.
Yeah?
Yeah, but thank you. The Alex one.
The best Jeter call that you ever did was, Derek Jeter, where fantasy becomes reality.
I like this guy. Thank you very much.
I was on the elliptical when that happened.
Really?
I remember it well. Anthony, where are you?
Well, I don't have a question yet, but I did want to give Andrew a lot of credit because he may have been out for the last, 2-3 weeks?
Yeah.
But he did a lot of work for the show, so can we give Andrew a round of applause again, please?
I have a question for Andrew. Andrew, when you come in, right, people are chanting your name and give you a standing ovation. Do you regret leaving now?
No.
Look, you know it was hard. It was very hard for me to leave. Genuinely. So listen to it. It's on. You can download it right now.
Caught Offsides is rolling, baby.
Still
This is the
there.
season.
Caught offside.
And his co-host, JJ Devaney's right over there, too.
There he is.
Oh yeah.
There he is. Andrew, is the new job fun, though? You having a good time?
Yes. Yeah, it's been great. Honestly, it's incredibly different. It's like radio and TV, or it's like a new language
Right.
almost.
And also
But-
different when you go to cash your checks.
Oh, wait. But also, we need to know this from Andrew. How difficult would it have been to come into work on Tuesday after the Commanders beat the Eagles?
I saw one tweet from Peter after the game. I think he had no shirt on.
Yeah, he didn't have any clothes
And I
on.
said, you know what, I'm off. I'm done with Twitter. I can't see anymore. Honestly, that was a game, Peter, that the Eagles are 8-1. They're very good. They could win the Super Bowl. It's possible. I will be at the parade still muttering about that game. It was that
Now, real quick, would you be muttering about the referees or about the referees?
all of it. But yes.
How about the shirtless thing? We'll mutter about that.
I mean, again.
It was disturbing, right? It was troubling.
Yeah, would you eat horse poop is the question. Thank you.
Never have, never would.
Never have, never would.
Who's next?
All right, who's next? Who's
I
next?
got one over here.
Hey, what's up, guys? My name is Raza from Toronto, Canada.
Hey, wow.
The 416.
What's your question about?
I want to say, I know we're reminiscing on the really good times, top moments. Is there ever a time you can think of where you're like, this isn't going to work. I want to move on. I want to look into other possibilities.
Well, Don will remember this. Well, one personally for me, but they revolve around Shea Stadium. We could not broadcast our show out of Shea Stadium. So when the Yankees played the Subway Series, we'd always have to do it in some fakakta place. But one day, our program director, Mike Thompson, said, you know what, Michael? Just do the show from the Yes booth. They're not going to stop you. So I'm doing the show from the Yes booth. Don's in the studio, I believe.
Yep.
And the Mets come in, well, somebody from the Mets, and said, you must cease broadcasting. And I said, what, like, is it a career choice? And they said, no, you cannot be broadcasting this radio show because FAN owns the rights to the Mets. And I said, okay, so Mike Thompson was there, and the guy walked out. I said, keep broadcasting, I'm not going to do anything. Then, about 5 minutes later, they bring in 2 New York City cops. And they said, if you don't stop broadcasting, we're going to put handcuffs on you and drag you out of the stadium. And so Mike Thompson, who was like a big publicity guy, said, do it! Do it! That'll look really great. The voice of the Yankees. You're dragging them out of Shea Stadium in handcuffs. And the police officer said, well, we'd be dragging out the host of the Michael K. Show. They're the same guy! How's that going to look? So I had to stop broadcasting. I said, what am I doing here? Second one, because we couldn't broadcast in Shea Stadium, they had us on the walkway to the tennis center. And we had some kind of tent up. So Don and I are sitting there, and all of a sudden, it's the worst storm you've ever seen. And the tent blows onto the train tracks, and the rain is pelting down, and they get us into the Hummer vehicle, and I'm sitting in the back seat, and I'm sitting in the front seat, and they're making us broadcast from there. They hooked it up to like the ignition. And that was another time. Remember that time? I said, well, what are we doing?
Well, you got to go and do the game. I had to finish the show number by myself.
Yeah, soaking wet. Most fun I ever had in the back of a car.
I'm
Tremendous.